Good afternoon to you, everybody. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here, Friday now, April the 5th, 2024. What a week to 10 days it has been for me, traveling to various conferences, the National Hurricane Conference last week, and then the National Tropical Weather Conference in South Padre Island this week. Both were amazing opportunities to present the work that I am doing with my team of supporters, back-end people, you name it. Just a wonderful time to showcase that. Learning from some incredible people as well. Just remarkable. I am just absolutely blown away by the stuff that I have learned over these last week to 10 days or so. And then going even further back in time when I went to IBHS to learn about hail, because we are getting ready. We are so close now to start studying hail and showing that to you like you've never seen it before. Very much like we've done with hurricanes, which is what we're going to really talk about today. So, as you know, yesterday, the 4th, Dr. Phil Klotzbach and Colorado State University put out their first quantitative forecast. You've seen the numbers and all that, but I just want to kind of break it down in terms of what it means and what it can mean to you and what you should do with this information. A little bit of my opinion on how to interpret this. We'll put some facts, and then we'll talk about some opinions about how to interpret it and what to do with it from there, what to look for in the future. And then we're going to talk about that eclipse that is coming up that has certainly had me under a lot of stress trying to figure out where the cloud's going to be, where am I going to be. I've got my family coming to watch it with me. It has been maddening, and anybody that was at the Hurricane Conference with me that spent any quality time with me, they know it was really bothering me, a lot of stress there. So good to be back with you here this Friday afternoon as I put this together. Let's see what we got. So the numbers, the biggest forecast, the most aggressive forecast, whatever you want to call it, that Colorado State University has ever put out. 23 named storms are forecast. The average is 14. 11 hurricanes are forecast to form from those 23 named storms. 5 of those hurricanes, those 11, becoming major hurricanes, which is Category 3 or above, and an ACE, the accumulated cyclone energy, that's the quality of the storms, that's way up there, almost double what we would normally see. And then this one's really important right here, so much so that I'm going to highlight it in red for you. ACE west of 60 degrees longitude, which is where most of us live, right? 125. So even the ACE west of 60 is more, forecast to be more, than the normal ACE for an entire hurricane season. And the accumulated cyclone energy is again, the measurement, it's a wind formula, and it's basically, again, about the quality. How strong are they, and how long do they last? Weak systems don't get a big ACE score, especially if they're short-lived. And intense systems that are also short-lived, Laura was a powerhouse in 2020, but it was a very short-lived Category 3-4 hurricane. Whereas Ivan in 2004 had an ACE score of 70 all by itself because it was a very long-lived hurricane and particularly intense. So these are the numbers, all right? So how did Dr. Klotzbach and his colleagues that work on this collectively come up with this? Well, we've been talking about this for months. Everybody can see it. A lot of other people out there in weather Twitter, weather YouTube, whatever, we can all look at this stuff and we interpret it and we talk about it with our audience. And the big driver are the sea surface temperature anomalies. Again, we've been beating this almost senseless, really since last year, and this has not gone away. This very pronounced arc of anomalous warmth, especially in the tropical Atlantic through here. This is a very key component to this whole puzzle. These temperatures in here, the anomalies, the departures from the long-term average, are the warmest on record for this time of year. We're looking at temperatures that would be more typical of June, and it is still early April. So that helps Dr. Klotzbach and his colleagues fit to correlation. In other words, when you look to find out and you ask in this particular science, what gave us very busy seasons in the past. One of the keys to that question are sea surface temperature anomalies, and you can do a match. And it's not quite 1-to-1, but we're getting close here. This is incredible. So the correlation, this is what typically gives us a very busy hurricane season when sea surface temperatures or anomalies are like this. It jacks up the ACE and the trigger mechanisms for what Dr. Klotzbach and his colleagues are looking for happen. Those triggers are met, so to speak, and this is a very, very solid match, except that we've never had it this warm before. So there's really not a good analog that we can look back on. Maybe 2010 to some extent. 2020 was quite a busy season, but we are above those thresholds already. Now things can change, the patterns can change, we know that, all right? But we are now less than 2 months before the start of the hurricane season, and a lot of these things are in place. And one of the interesting components to this, because I saw Dr. Klotzbach, he likes to be called Phil, but the respect though that he is a PhD. One thing that Phil said, he talked about the Atlantic meridional mode, and basically, instead of really explaining it, because it gets kind of deep into the weeds, we're going to have a very favorable setup right here, so that we have winds coming in from the southern hemisphere, and that's going to help with convergence and the creation of westerly winds at about 5,000 feet, anomalous winds kind of coming around this way to enhance the monsoon trough, to allow for convergence, air coming together, and that makes it rise. We have the warm sea surface temperatures already in place, anomalously so. So the lower pressures, the lower than normal surface pressures that will probably be present, all of that should jumpstart and help to fuel a very active Atlantic hurricane season. All right, moving along to the different aspects of what Phil was talking about. And he explains it very well. One reason for the very active seasonal forecast is the presumed development of La Nina here. We're coming out of El Nino, and most of the modeling is agreeing that we're going to be in La Nina, and that helps to reduce the wind shear, especially in the Caribbean and the western parts of the deep tropical Atlantic. So this is part of that. Different graphs that we look at. This is the North American multi-model ensemble. Everything's pointing into that direction. We are not going to have, I believe, as certain as we can be, that we are not going to have, we can say we are almost certain that we're not going to have an El Nino like we did last year, the developing El Nino, to sort of mess with the pattern, because that does shape the pattern of steering, and we'll talk about steering in a minute, but also the wind shear, which really wasn't too prevalent. But you remove El Nino from the equation and you make a La Nina present with the very favorable conditions that we have in the tropical Atlantic. It is setting the stage for a very busy season. And so we need to pay attention to this. We need to be looking and we need to be listening, and we need to understand that this is important. This has value. It doesn't tell us where storms are going to go in any particular area, and we'll address this more in a minute, but this is a gift, I have said this for years, from science. All right? Meteorology, oceanography, map making, everything, cartography, geography, we put it all together. Social science as well. But the science here from the work that was started with Dr. Gray, the late Dr. Gray in 1984, continues. And what is that, 40 years or something like that? That's a blip in geologic time, and we're making progress. What are we going to do in the future with AI? There was a presentation at the National Tropical Weather Conference about AI from a French gentleman that just blew a lot of minds there. It was impressive. Maybe we'll have him on a Hurricane U or a podcast someday. Anyhow, the science is still in its infancy. It's getting better. We kind of knew last year that there was going to be a lot of uncertainty because you had the powerhouse El Nino, the powerhouse warmth of the Atlantic clashing. The Atlantic won in the overall scheme of things because we did have a very busy season, but the El Nino kept it from being ridiculous into the stratosphere, so to speak. We don't have that this year, and the science is telling us that. The data, it's there. So what do we do with it? We need to act on it, and be ready for what happens in the coming months. So again, the shear, the reduction of the wind shear because of the lack of El Nino is a big component to the very busy season that is anticipated. Furthermore, these are the gifts, again, that we are given. Now, let me just back up. Dr. Klotzbach, Phil, the ECMWF, people call Euro is king. Okay, well, the king says that it is calling for an extremely active Atlantic hurricane season, explicitly forecasting, this is a climate model, the Euro, basically a simple way to put it, 21 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and 170% of normal accumulated cyclone energy through October. And we could have activity brimming through November. So this is the data. This is what we look at. It's there. And this is telling us we need to be ready. And that's the backside to this. You see all this, okay, now what do we do with it? And I think understanding the value of these forecasts, it can help individuals say, maybe I really will pay attention to hurricanes this year, whatever that means for you individually. Starting this month, we're going to take a lot more time in these updates. I have a lot going on, that's for sure, but I want to take the time in these updates to address, okay, what can we do to be ready? How can we work with people in our communities that know a lot about hurricanes, attending hurricane town hall meetings, either online or in person, working with homeowner associations, neighborhood associations, and then different Facebook groups to share actionable information. Let's work together for this, because these things can be really bad. They can, all right? It might be my business. It's how I make a living, studying, observing, reporting on these hurricanes, but I know that they can be very bad. They can change lives. I was talking to a couple people, and we can just see it on each other's faces. We have a bad feeling because we know what could be coming. We see the suffering, and we see the damage, and it can be generational, and we need to take action individually, as a community, as a country, state level. And this helps to at least, I hope, light the fire under the behinds of people who are in charge, beginning with you at home all the way up to the federal government. And believe me, to the best of their ability, they are taking it seriously. And here's another big piece of the puzzle. We talk about steering. I see questions about what value are seasonal forecasts because they tell us nothing about impacts. No, not explicitly, not baked in to the forward-facing stats. But you have to read into it, and you got to look further, you got to dig deeper. These same climate models that are giving us these different charts and graphs and numbers also output thematic maps. Well, a company like Weather Models will make the map based on the data. What does the data show? Okay, this is from weathermodels.com. It was shared with me on Twitter from a good friend of ours. I've never met this guy, Adrian. You know who you are, buddy. I'm going to meet you this year. It might not be from, hey, what's going on? It might be a very stressful meeting, but regardless, we share information with each other. Us, storm2k.org, our back-end team, you name it, and we find these things. And again, they're readily available. Well, what is it? This is the ECMWF. See it right there? And this is showing us basically your precipitation anomaly. It's not even basically, that's what it is. I'll highlight it here in red. This is in inches. This is your precip anomaly. What would cause all of this precipitation anomaly spike through this area through here? Tropical cyclone activity. Depressions, waves, storms, hurricanes, major hurricanes, all of it. You ever see on social media, especially Twitter, videos and pictures that'll just post something, usually it's political, and it'll say, what do you notice about such and such in this video or in this photograph? And it just leaves it to people to comment. You've seen those. So I present that to you, especially if you're new to watching tropical stuff or new to my channel. What do you notice about this? I just told you that shows the greens and the gradients of green over here into the blues, anomalous precipitation. What do you notice about it? Just think about it for a second. It's pretty obvious, and maybe there's a couple of things about it. But the first thing that I notice is how it's aimed almost like a pipeline at where? West of 60 degrees longitude, which is right there. That is a wake-up call if I ever saw one. 51 ensembles of this model in the overall package of it, and this is some robust stuff here. This is not cheap. We're not sure how good it is. It has decent skill. It's not perfect, but it gives us an idea that this is not aimed out into the open Atlantic like that, this corridor right here. Now, could that change in the May version of this? Yes. We don't know the future, but this has been consistent. And when I get back to the office after the eclipse and all of that, right now I'm in Southeast Houston area, we'll go back and look at how we have progressed. Adrian, I could use your help on that. Maybe you could send me some graphics of how this has progressed, and we can work with Storm 2K folks, because I want to present it where you can understand it and see that most of the models, the CAN-SIPs, that's the Canadian version of this, the North American Multi-Model Ensemble, the NMME, and then of course the Euro, what is that, the C5, SEA Cs 5, I don't know what the acronym stands for, but basically you've got the Euro, the UK Met, and of course Ben Knoll is going to do the UK Met Euro blend, the super ensemble, and they've been showing this type of pattern where the fire hose of activity, if you will, has been aimed into the Western Basin for month after month now for the last few months. And I'm going to prove it to you when we do this update next week. So this is important. The takeaway is this is your wake-up call. This is your opportunity. People say, what are the values of seasonal forecasting? The value, in my opinion, is this is your visit to the doctor, and the doctor does a checkup and blood work and whatnot, and the doctor says you have high blood pressure, you got a little bit of a potential for prediabetes, whatever, a little bit fat. Okay, we can admit that. I still have work to do in that regard. And he doesn't just leave you. Your doctor, he or she, doesn't tell you those things. You're overweight, high blood pressure, your diabetic numbers are not good, whatever, and have a nice day. They tell you what you can do to help mitigate the decline in your health. Eat less sugar, exercise more, eat more fiber, more protein, on and on and on, right? This is the same type of thing. This is your doctor visit from Dr. Phil. And I don't mean to sound funny at all. Dr. Klotzbach and other people in the field from other organizations, there's over 30 of them now, they're all sounding the same alarm. They are all delivering the same wake-up call to you. And now it is up to you to learn about your vulnerabilities, to develop a plan based on those vulnerabilities, and then do something about it when one of these comes your way. We don't know when that is, and we don't know how bad it'll be. That comes later, and we spend a lot of time talking about that when that time comes. But we're not helpless, and it is not going to be spoon-fed to you. You have to take the personal responsibility for yourself, your business, your community. It starts with individuals. All right? So do your homework. This is your wake-up call. Begin the journey to being hurricane prepared today by learning more, asking questions. Ask me. Ask me on Twitter. Comment on YouTube. Send an email. hermark@gmail.com. Easy, HURRMARK. Reach out and ask community members in your area that know about this stuff. All right? Now, a little bit of sort of good news or whatever. Very stressful. The upcoming eclipse that has so many people just stressed out, I'm sure, because of the cloud situation. I know I've been, because this is really important to me as a weather geek, as a science geek, astronomy, what have you. And there's a lot of us. Some people do not care. They just don't look at this as any big deal, and that's fine, right? Usually it's like the people that just don't like watching movies at the movie theater, or they don't hear the beautiful soundtrack from somebody like John Williams or Hans Zimmer or Ludwig Göransson as examples. All right? That's fine. Not everybody's the same. Eclipses are incredible displays of nature, and we have a doozy coming up, one of the best in a long time, on Monday. This is the path of totality. And yes, total is the goal. If you are here and it's not cloudy, you don't see the total eclipse. You're close, but no cigar. You have to be in this path to see the sun completely covered by the moon. It starts near Mazatlan, moves through Mexico, through the hill country, passing the Dallas-Fort Worth region, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, through the Lake region, finally exiting in New England and through Atlantic Canada and beyond. The path of totality and the total time ranges from over 4 minutes to about 3 minutes and some change, depending on where you are. And it is one of the most incredible displays that you will ever see if you can see it. You need the clearest skies possible to see the best eclipse possible. Duh. It makes perfect sense. Believe me. And again, I got some colleagues that are like, I can't wait for this eclipse to be over so Mark can stop stressing. It's been very important to me since the one in 2017, and I took some of my family to see that. I'm taking more of my family to see this one. We were originally going to be down here, let's use blue, in this area near Kerrville, but nature has kind of given us the, I'm going to hide my finger, you know what it was, in this area, unfortunately. Part of that area is probably not going to see the eclipse. So I've been looking, do we drive up here and whatever? Am I considering like who's got to be where for school to start? That's just a nightmare. So I have decided, and the trigger has been pulled. Chasers often say storm chasers, hurricane chasers, and now eclipse chasing. It's happening. The Sudduths are going to go to the great state of Maine. In fact, I'm going to be right there for the totality with several members of my family, and I am looking forward to it. It's going to be spectacular. It's going to be cold, chilly, snow on the ground. I mean, went from Texas hill country, whatever, to the Canadian border. At least I can show my family Tim Hortons. They have one up there where we're going to be. So that's the path of totality. That's my plan. What's going on with this? What's the deal with the eclipse phenomenon? If you're not up on this stuff for whatever reason, I don't know how you say Alex's last name. I would assume that it's maybe Spahn, but it could be Spahn. But he follows me. Alex does, and boy, his work's just like, wow. He's put together some cool stuff here, including these kick-butt infographics for you. And I just wanted to kind of put this to your attention. I will put a link to this one, this sort of thread that he's put together, so you can get some eclipse background info for you that he puts together. By the way, Alex does teach. Teaches what? Professor of Physics, Astronomy, and Earth Science. Yeah. And if you're not following Alex, you should. You will not regret it. Wow. And so Alex, I think, is going to get to see it, I hope. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to. If it was today, by the way, we would be good to go through here, roughly. And I know that's not the exact path. And we would be out of luck up here. But the pattern is going to change. And our good friend Tomer Burg has put together a wonderful web page here. I'll put a link to this in today's description as well. And you can see the ensemble forecast for cloud cover and whatnot. Generally speaking, the blues are favorable, including up here in Maine. Fantastic. Looking good. Not so good in Texas, or at least parts of it. And this is going to change. We still have 3 days. We know how stuff can change. But the city dashboard, hats off to Tomer for coming up with this. You can click on the predetermined circles here for geographic information. For example, let's scooch down here. Sort of near where I was going to be, the closest area is Fredericksburg in Texas. Womp, not looking good. That's just a real bummer. So what about farther to the north and east? Not far from Tyler, Texas. Clarksville, better, but still not ideal. So this is all on this little setup that Tomer has put together. You get into Arkansas, close to the center line, 35% cloud cover, not bad. 80% of the ensemble say, hey, we should have pretty good viewing. And then it just goes on and on and on. You can check these cities out yourself. As far as me and my family, we are going to be here in Maine. How do you say that? Holton? It wouldn't be Howelton, but whatever, I got to find out. Holton, Maine, I would assume 99% of members. That's pretty good. I'll take those odds. Those are some good Vegas odds right there in Maine. And it's almost right in the center line. So I'm looking forward to that 3 minutes and 20 seconds of totality. You bet. I'll be covering it on Fox Weather. I'll be talking about it on social media. And I've got Starlink. From SpaceX. We bought one last year. It was crowdfunded. Thank you all. And we'll put it to use up there because it's going to be crowded. That's for sure. So that's the deal. I'll put a link to this again in today's update. All right. So we've covered upcoming hurricane season. It's time to buckle down, really focusing on what to do, what to watch for, how do trends change. If they do, are they better or are they worse? And then we deal with it. We roll with it the best we can. We use our collective knowledge and our smartness. All right. We've got a bunch of smart people out there that can help us to be ready. And that's the key to this. And we're getting ready for this big time eclipse. If you're traveling, do so safely. And I hope to see some cool stuff from you on social media. Even if you're where it's cloudy and you just can't get out from under that, it's still going to get dark. The eclipse still happens. You just don't see the spectacular part of it. But, it'll get dark and the street lights will come on and it'll be even darker because it is cloudy. All right, so we are on YouTube. And I say like, share, subscribe, share. It does help us, but it helps you too. If you subscribe and we post a video, you get notified. Make sure you put that notification button on, and we can help you with some good, solid intel. We are supported through Patreon. If there's ever a year to join up and be a part of our community, engaging with us through Discord and watch our cameras that we put out, our interactive maps, that eclipse map that I showed you, that's our interactive tracking map. We track eclipses and hurricanes. You can sign up at patreon.com/HurricaneTrack or get the Patreon app and just search HurricaneTrack. We'd love to have you part of our wonderful community. All right, again, it's Friday. It's the last day of the work week. We're headed into the weekend. I'm going to be traveling. I had a lot going on. I hope that I can put together a very quick update about the eclipse on Sunday once I'm up in Maine. So keep your fingers crossed for that. If not, then certainly Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, I'll show you the results. But do follow along if you can, right here on Twitter. Or I say right here, I showed you some Twitter stuff. And of course, YouTube. It's all HurricaneTrack. Hurricane TRACK, that's the brand on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube mostly, right? Some Instagram every once in a while. There's a lot going on, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the eclipse if you can. I am Mark Sudduth from all of us at HurricaneTrack. I'll talk to you as soon as I can.